build on each other. The first thing to note about Pirkei Avot is that unlike the rest of the tractates of the Mishnah, there's nothing halachic here. None of it is binding. When it goes through other tractates of the Mishnah, if you look through it, it starts off with the column or the order of things that are grown. So it goes through all the laws about a farmer, especially in those days. That was what the common occupation was, farming. So it goes through the laws of farming, what are the laws of tithing your grain and bringing the truma and all the different laws that would be applied. For example, this year in Israel, we have a Shemitah year. It's a year of resting, that we're not meant to work the ground. So it goes through those laws, etc. It goes through what are the laws? How does the law apply to me? Pirkei Avot is actually no law. It's all traditional things. It's all advice, so to speak, or what you'd call in Hebrew, in the term in the Talmud, is lifnim mishur tzaddik. It's something that you want to live above the letter of the law. You want to live a better life than just the base, right? You could be just a good person, or you could be doing something more. And that's really what Pirkei Avot is focusing on. What would be called in Talmudic times midat chassidut, the attributes of kindness, being an extra kind person. That's really what the law. So nothing here should be binding by Torah law. None of this is binding by Torah law. It's advice. It's the way to live your life. And what you'll find actually is if you look at the quote, the author of any quote, there's actually a reason why that is the author. That's the quote of that author the author of that quote, which is something that's very fascinating. That we find some of the backstory of some of these rabbis tells us why the quote that they're making is made. Just one interesting trivia note on the Pirkei Avot is that actually Rabbi Stoller said that it's 6 chapters. Not to correct him, it's actually only 5 chapters. In the original text of the Pirkei Avot, it's 5 chapters. And if you look in the original text, it's 5 chapters. The 6 chapters added on from what's known as the Brisa. And the reason why it's added on is because the tradition that began, the rabbis started a tradition that between the holiday of Pesach, which is coming up now, and the holiday of Shavuot, which is really the longest Shabbos days of the year, right? It's when the longest daytime that we have. So they didn't want people just sitting around doing nothing on Shabbat afternoon, right? They finished their cholent, their hot cholent. Now they're going to just take a nap and nap for 6 or 7 hours because it's a really long afternoon. So they instituted studying a chapter of the Pirkei Avot. Now, we know that between Pesach and Shavuos, there's 7 weeks, but you have to keep in mind that some of it is holiday. So there's actually 6 Shabboses between Pesach and Shavuot. So they wanted there to be 6. They instituted studying a chapter of Pirkei Avot, but there was one missing. So they incorporated a chapter from another source, which is the Brisa, discussing similar topics, similar ideas of things which you can do to make your life a better life, to be a better person. But just a little bit of trivia to add on to that. And there really there's a ton to learn. And when you study the Pirkei Avot, you can read it, and the text on the surface is quite fascinating. But when you dig a little deeper, it's actually even more fascinating. There's so much underneath. There's so much on the layer under, and then even the layer under, etc. So every time you study it, really, you can get it on another depth, on another level, and really incorporate those teachings into your life in a very positive way.
Just for fun, let me throw out another one that's connected, though. There's a saying that all study of the Torah and no work can lead to sin. So how do they justify studying the Torah, all day long?
There is no justification, to be honest. I mean, to say there's no justification, I think would be wrong, but you find that throughout Pirkei Avot is the idea of what we call, you said work, but the term that it's used is derech eretz, the way of the world. In other words, there's a primary importance to providing for yourself and for your family. And the idea of, and you'll find that a lot, if you look through actually a lot of the names that you have in the Talmud, a lot of them have names that have, at the end of it, a description of what their job was. There was Rabbi Yochanan Sandler. He was a shoesmith. There was one rabbi who was known he was a tanner, which was one of the dirtiest and smelliest jobs back in the day. And that's what he did for a living. Again, so much, and it's actually mentioned here in Pirkei Avot, is that it's better to work in a tannery, I think, than to take money from charity, to take money from as charity. So that idea, being someone who collects alms, is really not recommended here in the Talmud. The idea of studying, and therefore, and actually it says the Ishtamish B'Saga Chalaf. That's mentioned in chapter 1. I don't remember which one it is, but you can probably go a little bit up. maybe a little down, right here.
Well, I just wondered in face of this,
So go down one, go a little further down. Right here, Shmai Avtalyun. Shmai and Avtalyun said received the Torah tradition from the ones before. They used to say love work and hate acting superior. Do not attempt to draw so, but again, love work. I'm sorry, love work. It's always important to do work. And then if you go down a little further, there's going to be the shtamish, someone who uses the crown here. The last here. Huaya Omer. You're good there, a little lower. Sorry, I'm directing. Let's see the last line. One who makes unworthy use of the crown, Torah study of learning, shall pass away. In other words, if you use the Torah for your own benefit, death sentence.
Yeah.
So that's the idea of using the Torah and kind of, right? And that always asks the question, how could there be rabbis that are getting paid to study Torah?
Yeah, right.
I'm not going to answer that question right now.